Overlord Season 4 Episode 13, the last episode of the season, and man, what an episode it was. Although it wasn't filled with action or anything like that, it still has some moments of action here and there. But most importantly, the episode was filled with a lot of tense moments, with a lot of drama, with a lot of plot twists, with a lot of new discoveries that us the watcher learn in this episode. So yeah, what an epic episode for the ending of the fourth season. Some people may not like the episode because it was not, filled with action like the third season ended, with the huge battle between Ainz and the kingdom. But it is a different type of episode. It is a different type of ending episode in where we see a lot of development happen. I mean, this episode alone advanced a lot of the story because we see so many things finally take place, so many things ending. For example, we finally see Princess Renner put her plan into action, or I should say her plan ending. We finally see it in this episode, although it was kind of hinted that it wasn't really her plan. Although I better those say that all of it, or 90% of it, was all part of Princess Renner's plan. The Muse also play a huge role in all the events that happen, because in reality he is really the mastermind. I mean, it couldn't have happened without the help of Princess Renner, of course, because she was an insider of the kingdom. She was there, everybody trusted her. But also you can say the same thing about the Muse, that without him pulling the string behind everybody's back, nothing could have happened. So yeah, and I mean, although I may not know the full extent of the Muse plan to take the kingdom down, I mean, he did trust him after all, so he did knew that whatever the Muse was doing was going to bring the kingdom down. We also see at the end of the episode how Albedo took her revenge on the noble guy, because, he was the one that foiled her plan of using him as a sort of rebellion guy, as a sort of guy that made a sort of rebellion inside the kingdom. But of course, we know that that failed because he took matters into his own hand. He deviated from the plan that Albedo had, and because of that, we saw how Albedo was not really humiliated, but in her point of view, she was actually humiliated. Ainz actually humiliated her. Ainz didn't trust her that much. Of course, again, all according to her point of view. So because of that, we see her take revenge at the end of the episode against the noble. She basically killed him because, I mean, what else could have happened to that poor guy? And I guess the main focus of the episode, weirdly enough, is all centered around Princess Renner, because I mean, I guess she has been the main focus throughout the whole fourth season. I mean, of course, if you're not taking into account Ainz, because he's the main protagonist after all, but in reality she has been the main focus of all the fourth season, and this 13th and last episode was not the exception either, because throughout the whole episode we see her in her human form, and then almost at the end of the episode we see her already transformed into a demon. So her evolution, her development throughout this whole episode was really intense, because we see her in a lot of situations. The episode starts with her, acting normally, although we know that she's really not acting normally. We know that she's planning to betray the kingdom. So yeah, but in all intents and purposes, I mean, she was acting normally. She was interacting with her father. She was interacting with Climb and, stuff of that nature. And already I had the feeling that, I mean, I guess not only me, but everybody knew that the king was going to die. And of course, that is what happened. I mean, it was something that was coming, to be honest. The king lasted this long. And of course, the death was coming for him, because in Overlord nobody gets saved, everybody dies, even your favorite character can die. So yeah, of course that happened. And I guess one of the most interesting things that happened in this episode regarding Princess Renner is that she was actually turned into a demon. I don't know if that was her plan since the beginning. It probably was, because when you take into account that now that she's a demon, she gets to live forever, and because she also asked Climb to do the same, well, now they can live eternally. So yeah, considering all of that, it was actually probably her plan to be transformed into a demon. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that it could have backfired, that the plan that she had could have not come true, because we know that Albedo, Ainz, or Demiurge, or any one of the Tomb of Nazareth can simply change their mind and simply say no. But I mean, she took the risk, it worked out for her, and it would seem to be that everybody in the Tomb of Nazareth trusts her. I mean, to a certain extent, because all of them know that she's kind of wicked, she's kind of insane. So yeah, they trust her to a certain extent, because it was explained even by Albedo that Ainz had put a lot of faith in her, and even Princess Renner herself is surprised of that, because she didn't think that Ainz was going to go with all the act, with all the plan that Princess Renner had. And yeah, she was even surprised by that. But I mean, considering that Ainz was only following the Murge's instructions, well, it kind of makes sense that he didn't care what Princess Renner's plan was, because at the end of the day, Demiurge and also Albedo to a certain extent were moving and pulling the string behind Princess Renner, although of course it was almost all Princess Renner's plan. And yeah, I mean, she asked Climb to be turned into a demon too, because I mean, that way she doesn't feel alone. I mean, considering all the things that happened in this episode, there were a lot of surprising things, but at the same time you can almost say that there weren't any surprising things, because a lot of the things that we saw in this episode, everybody almost saw them coming. Of course, there were a couple of things here and there that were also surprising. For example, a lot of things that Princess Renner did, but of course there were also things that in a way everybody saw already coming. But at the same time, again, that doesn't mean that they were not shocking or surprising, even though a lot of people already saw them coming. For example, the king's death, Princess Renner betraying everyone, the kingdom being destroyed. I mean, I think that is the least surprising one of all of them, because the destruction of the kingdom has been coming since the end of the third season. I mean, it took all the fourth season for the kingdom to be destroyed, for Ainz to destroy the kingdom. So yeah, I think that is the least surprising one out of all of them. And yeah, that is how the episode ended, with the kingdom destroyed. And apparently Ainz is actually really happy, he's really calm, he's really satisfied with everything he did to the kingdom, because now he feels that, well, all the other people, all the other states, nation states, whatever you want to call them, will now rebel against the Sorcerer Kingdom, which we don't know if that is actually the case, because it could be the case that that doesn't necessarily help the kingdom, the Sorcerer Kingdom. It could be the case that that actually backfires. We need to consider that too. But at least in this episode, I feels really happy, really satisfied with everything he did, because Raven, that was introduced in this episode again, even said that nobody was going to be foolish enough to rebel against the Sorcerer Kingdom. So I mean, that is at least the impression that the episode tries to give us. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that that is going to be the case, but I mean, that is what happened at least in this episode. But yeah, I mean, overall a pretty good episode, for the ending of the season. A lot of people, like I said at the beginning, would have liked to see, you know, a little bit more action, something big happening, you know, Ainz fighting Riku or some big battle. But this type of episodes are not bad either. I mean, we got a lot of advancement of the plot of the anime story as a whole in this single episode. So when you consider that, it was not actually a bad episode. But yeah, I mean, that is everything that happened in the episode. I probably missed some stuff, but that was probably the most important things that happened in the episode. I guess the general theme or topic of this episode could be described as seeing the full wickedness, the full sadistic side, the full evilness. There are a lot of adjectives you can use to describe Princess Renner, but the full wickedness of Princess Renner in full display. I think that is how I would describe the episode. I mean, we already knew that she was this kind of person, but this episode expanded on that even more. I mean, it was put on full display how evil and how wicked she could be. So yeah, I guess that is how I would describe the episode as. But yeah, I mean, that is my episode review for the 13th episode, the last episode of the 4th season. I don't know if going forward I will do other anime reviews of Overlord, maybe of some general topic or something like that. I will have to consider it, I will have to think about it. But yeah, that is my episode review of the 13th episode. I hope you enjoy, and that is everything for me.